Welcome back to Director's Notes.
Yeah, it's been I think we've had a few projects on your platform, right?
Yeah. So we're here to talk about Invincible. I watched it for the first time a couple of days ago, and I had to get up from my computer and I had to walk away and I had to give myself a moment. So it's truly beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, tell us a bit about the
y-
film.
yeah, I mean, um, it's based on the true story of my childhood friend, Marc-Antoine, who tragically died at the age of 14, um, after driving a stolen car into a river. And so, as you can probably imagine, like this moment, this incident really affected me, but also, everybody in our community. Like it was a really tough moment. And at that time, I was really young, and I don't think I really understood what really happened. Like there was a lot of people saying that it was an accident. It was, there was police involved and everything. And the way it all happened was so tragic that it was really hard to grasp. You know, yeah, I guess what happened at that time. Um, and that story really stayed with me for many years until I would say I think it's probably 6 years ago that I decided to kind of go back to that story and try to understand a bit better what happened at the time. The first thing that I did was really to meet with the parents of my friend, and to kind of just have a conversation with them about who was Mark, what did they remember of him, but also of that incident, of that moment. And from this discussion, I start to do a lot of research on mental health, on the juvenile center that we kind of system that we have in Montreal and Quebec, where I'm from, but also a lot of research on my friends. So I start to meet with his also with his other friends at the time and with people that knew him. And that idea of making a film about my friend started to kind of grow up in my head. And yeah, I think that and I understood that, well, the important moment, I mean, there was many important moments, but I understood that I think where everything really broke, where everything, the kind of um, fracture really happened in the 48 hours before he passed away. And so I made a film about the 48 hours before my friend passed away.
Yeah. I've seen your videos that we've featured before, and you definitely have a style. There's an aesthetic that sort of flows through. How did you find the transition into this? Because it's a huge narrative project.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, um, ev- I think every project that I did before, like let's say every music video, every art films, they were kind of like a way for me to learn about myself, to learn who I was as a filmmaker. Like they were, and I made these projects while I was writing Invincible. So I think that like it's just more like they allowed me to discover many ways of like how I can tell a story, and I think that like visually, sound wise, like even in my music there's always a sound there's always so much work around the sound that I do. Like, so it's like I think that I brought all of this knowledge and to Invincible because at the end of the day, I think my biggest dream was really to do that movie and to do other movies afterward. So that's why I think that like doing music video and doing art film, they were a project by themselves and they were so important for me, but they were also a way for me to learn. Yeah.
How do you, as sort of a filmmaker, keep the momentum going on such a huge project, which has taken you so long and all of that research?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's a lot of like I I started this. I mean, if I can go back to like just one moment in my life that happened actually when I finished school, because I think it all started there, is I finished school and I started a production company with my friends at university. And so it's called Telescope Film, is the same production company that produced Invincible. And I think that like kind of building that production company with them, we became a family. Like we're so close. They were like the best of, like we were best friends, all of us. And I think this allowed us to like kind of like push each other and make the best out of each other. And so, you know, of course, there was a moment in these 5 years where I find it really difficult to be a filmmaker. I actually, like 2 years ago, I almost changed career because I was actually finishing the post-production. I mean, a bit less than 2 years ago, but I was finishing the post-production of my short film, you know, of Invincible. But why and you know, it was hard. Like I wasn't sure if the movie would work, and so, but you know, my friend really helped me to like get the momentum going. And you know, like it's in I was lucky enough to do this film with a lot of funding. But you know, to get these fundings while you're a first-time filmmaker takes a lot of time. So it was also, you know, it wasn't like time that I lost. Like I think it just got I think the project really just got better in these 5 years, and I'm really actually glad I took that much time. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like you said as well, then all the other films and the music videos and things you're doing, you know, you're learning, you're thinking of techniques that you
E-
bring in.
Exactly. It's like I think all of these other projects really allowed me to do to be able to do Invincible. And so, you know, to go back to this idea of like when we started this production company, the idea that was that we didn't want to stay at home and do one project every 2 3 and, you know, now 5 years. And because when someone do that, the problem that happens sometimes is that, you know, I think that director is like a muscle. It's a muscle you need to kind of rehearse, and you have to, you know, you have to be on set, you have to be able to direct actors and to know how to talk to your team and everything. And so all of these projects, they did really help me to do that, and that was all because of my friends and the production company we started together. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things, because I went, you know, I watched the film and then I rewatched it today a few times. We're so close, right? We're on his
Hmm.
face all the time. Why did you
Yeah.
make the decision?
Yeah. um it was a decision that I made because I wanted, like, visually I wanted to be in the world of that person. And so, you know, not only we are very close to his face, but most of the time the camera is like on a tripod fixed on the ground. We doesn't move a lot, and this allowed us a lot to so the actor first had to stay in that kind of frame. And so that kind of gave him the feeling that he was stuck in a box. He can't move too much. He feels stuck, and that really helped in the acting. But also it helped the viewer to like just feel like we cannot breathe. We cannot, it feels like it does feel really claustrophobic a lot. And so that was the reason why in a lot of the scene, especially when we are inside the juvenile center, we are on very tight close-ups. And on the opposite, when we are outside the juvenile center, usually we have wider shots and more kind of like lights coming into the camera, more time, more kind of space to breathe as well. And we actually did, you know, the same thing with the sound too. Like when we were inside, there's a lot of silence, and I mean, silence is like sometimes, you know, when I watch the film in a theater, it's a little bit intimidating because you can hear everybody in the rooms and some of the scene, because there's it's like basically it feels like empty. And but when he goes outside at the end, for instance, like there's a lot of wind, there's a lot of like um there's a lot of noise from coming from the trees. They are very subtle, but they all, I think, help like one another, like both visual and the sound. But I think the fact that the actors and mainly Léokim, the main actor, is such a such has gives such a strong performance. I think the fact that it allowed me to be very close to his face. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah.
No, that makes sense because there's nowhere to escape if you don't you enter into that world, into his world, then there's nothing else. There's
Yeah.
a few things that I want to talk about, but Léokim, you touched on him.
Hmm.
I read that you were working with him for about 2 months before. What were the stages involved to get you both ready for that?
Mm. We So yeah, I think we wanted to. It was my first film. It was his first film. So for us, it was a big learning process too. Like, and that's why we gave each other the luxury to like really do that. Like to so we saw each other for 2 months, every week. And it was a big thing for him because he was living like 2 hours away from Montreal. So he drove to Montreal every week, and the Saturday, and we worked all day together. And what we did was that, um, not only we talked about the scenes, and we wrote them together because I wanted this to be, feel natural for him as well. But we also, that's something that I love to do with him. We talked a lot about feelings just in general, and let's say like about, pain, about sadness, but about also about joy and happiness, and very like simple emotion. But how these emotion were interpreted by him in his daily life with his sister, with his family, with his friends. Um, and I think that the fact that we got all of these we got really, the fact that I understood that from him made the communication on set much more better, because I could talk about emotion with him in a way that he would understand. And so I think that's something that I learned from that film. I did that a little bit on one of my previous film, which was, I mean, a kind of an art film, with Sit Still, and I don't know if you seen that film, but it was with a 6 years old dancer, and she was amazing. And but we did that a lot. Like, in that process, what we did was that we didn't really do dance rehearsal. We just talked about emotion, and before filming, we and we, and so when we got on set, it was actually a very nice way to kind of like communicate on set. So that's what we did mostly, and I think that, when I got on set with Leo Kim, my job was really more to talk with the team, and I gave him the space to really kind of do what he was good at, and play the main character. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's that performance from him that has to come from a natural place. I don't think that the kind of emotions that he was able to convey, I don't think you can teach that kind of thing. Um,
No, I don't. I think that like that's why I want to talk to play with to work with him too, because he was very close to his emotion, and he in I think in many ways he could really understand and relate with the real Mark, and that was very special to have that, and to work to find someone like that. He was a non-actor, he never played before, so of course he has to be able to like forget about the camera and all of these things, but also he has to have a kind of a, yeah, emotions that are real too. Yeah, I think.
yeah, no, it's beautiful, and I think for such a young actor to be able to convey that all is, yeah, it's testament to both of you. And I
Thank
love
you.
as well because he's so angry. There's obviously so much that's going on in his head, but then
Hmm.
you've got these beautiful quiet scenes, um,
Hmm.
which show his kindness and his empathy. And
Hmm.
I love that balance. Why was it important for you to have those in there?
Yeah, that's a good question. Where should I start? I think that a lot of what I remembered from the year before my friend passed away was a lot of that anger and a lot of that sadness too, maybe, but I would say more anger. But the truth is that the Mark that I really knew, like that friend that I really knew before that year, was as such so more as such a enormous art, and was so sensitive, and you know, and for me, I think that like while I did the research, I kind of got to connect again with that friend. I got to see that part of that friend again. And so what I was reading writing the film, I didn't want to make a story about that anger so much. Of course, it's part of the film, but I think there's also, as I just mentioned, these moments where we can see his empathy and his love for his family and his sister, as well as for his friend. And that's why it was important. Like it is also why I start the film with the ending, because I think the ending is in many ways so tragic, and I could have easily put that at the end of the film, and that would have been kind of a more traditional way of doing it. But what it would have done is that this would have been what the viewer would have remembered, which is the ending and how tragic that was. But really, what was important in that story was that person and who that person was, and I want the viewer to get to know him, and understand his pain more than understand what happened. I don't know if that makes sense, but
It makes perfect sense. And it was something I noticed because I think that's so important when you're, making a film on, obviously a child who's got in trouble. And that's why he's in a juvenile detention center. But I think
yeah,
a lot of people forget that, people don't want to be bad. He doesn't want to, be doing all of this. There's something else. And, obviously you're speaking to
yeah.
health and everything. So that shines through. And I think that's really important.
Thank you. You just said it, like it's what you understand, what I did understand, what you understand also when you watch the film is that sometimes these behaviors, these um I would say delinquency, the way maybe it was seen by the society was like as a delinquent, but the truth is that it was just kind of, in my opinion, it was maybe more cry for help. And so that's what I wanted to understand from that pain, and that sometimes that anger, that aggressivity, that kind of these moment of like extreme behaviors. There was a kid and there was someone that was not doing well internally, and so that's what I wanted to show in the film.
Yeah. Well, you do that. You really do. I wanted to talk about the location. Was it a
Mhm.
real detention center?
It was, yeah. So we filmed the exact same juvenile center where the real event happened, and that we were really lucky for that. So that juvenile center has been open sometimes for some shoot, for some a film shoot of, but especially for like let's say like a prison like a series or stuff like that in Montreal. But then the pandemic happened, and that was it became almost impossible to film there. But then um we start to shoot, and we started to do like to go into production and to kind of look for location, and that was always where I wanted to film. And the fact that they knew him, like the journal center knew Mark, and some of the people that worked there were also there at the time that this happened. I think they wanted to help us, and so they kind of made an exception almost like a few weeks before we really got into shooting, and we were really lucky to film there. Of course, we painted the whole place like with colors that really matched the palette that we wanted, because when we got there it was like very bright orange and yellow and stuff, and colors like that that wouldn't have fit just the visual style of the film, I guess. But it was in a real room, like it was. And like that scene when he gets into the room, and there's a long sequence shot, I think almost 2 or 3 minutes. Like that's a real room, and there's all need like the camera operator, the boom operator, and the actor in the room, and they did feel like they had no space to move. Like, so that was special to film there, I think.
Yeah. It adds to the authenticity and it really adds to the realism. You can tell that those walls, they've got some shitty stories to tell.
Yeah. Unfortunately, like it's like such as like small, you know. I don't think. this location, it does feel like a prison, but I think the people that work there, they are human, and they have, most of them have kind hearts, and but it's still like a very hard place to be in. Like it is claustrophobic, and I cannot imagine having like 11 or 12 kids in the same kind of like dorm, all together. They're all coming from different backgrounds and different life experience too, and they all meet, and this must be a very tough place to work, but also tough place to, especially tough place to live when you're a kid. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, this is, I think there's a big problem worldwide with the penal system. You put people in places like that and you expect, I don't know, you expect results, which is not really how it works.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you touched on painting the walls for the tone, and you've worked with your
Hmm.
cinematographer for 8 years now.
Hmm. Yeah.
How
Yeah.
has the shared language developed?
Yeah. By the way, Alex, cinematographer, has been probably in all of my projects that were featured on Director's Note, and he was the one of the founder of my depression company. So with us, like, it's all goes, it's all the same thing. At the end of the day, we're all kind of like, we did this project together. He was one of the first one to read the script, and he was very, very involved in the whole process. What I loved about him is that he you know he watched so many films while I was writing, and he sent me like different reference and ideas too, of like, oh, like, I saw this scene in that movie, watch that movie, maybe it'll give you an idea for that, and blah blah. So it's like, and so that was a lot of collaboration with him. um and same, like, I think he took like probably like 2 months off before the shoot, and just to work on the general idea of like the film. And I think that we wanted, like, one of the first thing we wanted was also to do, we didn't want to do like a coming of age, like what we can easily imagine of a coming of age movie. And I think there's beautiful film that are like, that does that, and does it really, really well. But what I mean by that is like a lot of camera, like shoulder, like camera on the shoulder, that moves a lot with the character. And we wanted kind of to be more of a more grounded film, that it feels more like we let the actors and the art direction, everything, tell us the story. And so the camera is most of the time on a tripod, and yeah, we had so many discussion about both camera movement, but also about the colors, and the art. The production designer was really, really involved too in that film. So we kept like doing meetings together, and talk about color palette and everything, about every room and every location. Yeah, it was a big teamwork. It was a big teamwork.
I think that's it as well. And it's like you said, that the camera's there and it's almost like a fly on the wall, and it's witnessing
Yeah.
what's going on. And it was you saying as well, because within this story, and I felt that you wanted to concentrate on those, 36, 48 hours before, but there's so many different elements. So, I mean,
Hmm.
in your research, did you always know that that was the time you wanted to focus on?
Yes and no. Like, sometimes my imagination went somewhere else, but I think that, like, what really happened, and that's how you see it in the story, is that, like, my friend was there during a year in that juvenile center, and he escaped like a few days before the end of his sentence, I would say. Which is like, when I knew that, it was like, how come? Why did he escape just a few days before? And I also knew that, like, because he was behaving a bit better at the juvenile center, yeah, he could see his parent during the weekend, and could do stuff during the weekend with his parent, and come back to the juvenile center. And so that's why, like, I knew that he had a beautiful weekend with his family, that he came back, and then he escaped a few days later, and that this that's how tragic, and then he tragically died a few hours after that. And so, it always made sense in my head that, like, I had to understand what happened during that 48 hours. Like, it must have been really important, And at that time, because he wasn't that system, I didn't have any information. Uh, and so that's why I started to do a lot of research about that moment too. And I think at the end of the day, like what was the most important thing for me in that film was really that the character, like the character of Mac, his energy, his sensitivity, his sensitivity, but also his empathy and his love, and sometimes his anger were portrayed in the right way in the film. Now there is moment in the film and that came from my imagination and others that are true. And I've always been open about that with his family and with everybody. Is like it's inspired by true events and yeah, I had some of them I had to be come from me. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, it has sort of a documentary feel, but there's the narrative, there's the storytelling, which is
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is, and it's true. Like it's a short film, and it's a long short film. I know it's like 30 minutes, but like it's still like you have to tell a story in a short amount of time, and that was important for me. Yeah.
there's you know, as I'm sure you know, there's a lot of contention about the length of short films, and you're sort of
Yeah.
on the very edge of it. Was it
Yeah.
difficult to get it down to that?
Um, yeah, yes and no. Like it was like first I think we had like a 35 minute short film, and then um I think that we cut I think two scenes, which is not a lot when you see the amount of scenes in the film, but it did allow us to like really kind of really concentrate on the character of Mac. The other scenes that we took out were not really about him or about what that character was going through inside, and so that was kind of easy to cut. And then for me, it was always to stay under the bar of 30. Because like I know that also festivals and are very like strict about the 30 minutes, and of course like there's a lot of festival that didn't select us because it didn't even we couldn't even apply because like they have 15 minutes or 20 minutes. So but I don't think it really affected. Like at first, it was really hard and for me because there was a few festival that I really dreamed about going to, and then it was like, no, it's not going to be possible. But then eventually, we got a very nice momentum with other, like especially with Clermont-Ferrand and in France, where we had such a beautiful screening, and I think the fact that it's 30 minutes now, I'm really happy and proud about that. Originally, I was like, I know like a lot of people told me it has to be 15 minutes. So it's like, yeah, but now I'm happy about that decision.
Yeah, yeah, it's so difficult, but I mean, it's a story that could easily be a feature, like without a doubt. So
Possibly, yeah.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, you're Oscar nominated now. Congratulations.
Thank you. That's
Do you
crazy.
feel, yeah, how do you feel sort of the progression in your career? And there are sites like us, Directors Notes, who have followed you through that progression. How do you feel
Mhm.
now getting to this point?
Um, I think I feel very lucky and honored to be here. And it's like I've seen I've seen my career change and evolve over the past few years, and I know that that a lot of that is also because I was at the right place at the right moment, and also but other things is also because I think I worked really hard, and I think that like I put a lot. I'm someone that's, I know that I've always been very on the details and everything, and I think that like now I'm happy to be not about, I wouldn't say about Oscars or anything like that, but I'm happy that I'm here in my career because it does tell me that like, okay, maybe I'm on the right path of like telling stories and doing what I love as a career, and that for me that's like it's a huge honor, and to it's kind of also a relief to like, okay, maybe I can do what I do. Like, because for many years, like I was doubting myself, and now I think I constantly doubt myself, but I'm also have a little bit more confidence towards where I want to be and go in my career. And I don't think it has anything to do with the Oscars, because I think the Oscars is also a lot of luck and a lot of like you know, like the people have to see your film at the right moment, at the right place, and it's kind of like it's a long process. And there was many films that I loved this year that didn't make it to the nomination, but like, and I don't, you know, so for me, it's like I think it's more of a general feeling of like how I feel right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fair. You can't just, base your career on awards or anything, but it must be an amazing feeling.
Yeah, it is.
What are you
It
working
is
on next?
so yeah, you know, I've been working for I think probably a year on a feature film. While I was doing the festival run, I was working on that. It's kind of a project I actually had in my head for more than 1 year, and I know that when it's the case, then I know that this project is probably worth putting much more time on it, because it was like I couldn't sleep sometimes, like just always in my mind, and I was like, okay, I need to work on that. And so for 1 year now, I've been writing it and co-writing it actually with a friend of mine, which her name is Clara Milo, and she's also an amazing director. And so we were writing that film. We got a few grants to do a first version and everything, and a lot of support too in Montreal. So I'm so excited about that next project. I'm excited to like, I think the past few months have been a lot about Invincible and the Oscars, and I think after that it will be good to like take some time to like just go in a chalet, go in like outside the city, no social media, nothing, and just do that and work on that film. Yeah, I'm so excited about that actually.
Yeah. Put yourself in like a self-imposed writer's retreat.
I have to. I don't think I can really write when I'm in Montreal. It's so busy and it's so intense here. So I like to do that a little bit outside of the city. And yeah, just put my phone and like I hide my phone, and I just worked on the film, and that's usually the best days for me. It's hard to write, but it's also where everything is possible, and I kind of miss that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, good luck with
Yeah.
everything.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time to do this. Honestly, I love to talk about the film, and I know Directors Note again has been so supportive of my work. So thank you so much for doing that.